So today I'm sharing some information that I was inspired by Keith Johnstone, his book called Impro. The topic is transmitters. And so when we think of art, it's a medium. It's the creator expressing, not for the self, not for the image. Actually, a creator is a servant to and of God, who is the source of inspiration, puts a spirit in the body, who puts the art into the medium. Schiller, I don't know the first name, this is a quote, wrote, "Watcher at the gates of the mind is the one who examines ideas too closely. An individual can be criticized not only for his skill or lack of skill, but simply for being what he is. The intellect has withdrawn its watcher from the gates, and the ideas rush in pell-mell, and not only does it review and inspect the multitude, uncreative people, after all the ideas rush in, only then does it review and inspect the multitude. Uncreative people are ashamed of the momentary passing of madness, which is found in all real creators or creatives. Regarded in isolation, an idea may be quite insignificant and venturesome in the extreme, but it may require importance from an idea that follows it, perhaps in collation with other ideas which seem equally absurd. It may be capable of furnishing a very serviceable link." We know that learning to pay attention. There's interference in order to be more cosmically protected from contaminated brainwashers. So, in other words, things that are like disturbances or interference from that creative flow, that natural flow, learning how to pay attention to it can protect us. It's a cosmically built-in function because brainwashing has the wrong name, because brainwashing sounds like washing the brain in something to clean it off from the contamination, but actually the connotation, the definition we use for brainwashing is to force certain patterns into a specific line of thinking. So the brain creates a whole universe without me having the least sense of effort. It's amazing feats of analysis to turn on electromagnetic radiation into an image to perceive. Its imagination works as hard as the writer without a sense of having to do anything. When we're reading, we're actively being creative. This is why the brains of people who read or write are really different than the people who only watch TV. When we trust that the offers of images in the mind to questions on what it sees after hearing things spoken or read, they're trusting the first thing that comes to mind and also balancing that with accounting for the error of bias and trying to rationalize and self-prove the confirmation bias will sort of show us any agenda. So just to unpack that last part, it's about trusting the images that come to mind when we have questions, trusting we don't always think in words, and when we see and speak words, it can become images. And the other thing is that we have to trust sometimes that first impulse, we call it intuition. It's like that instinctive image or idea. Although recognizing at the same time that we may do that because we just want to be right, because our brain is lazy and wants to sort of keep on thinking what it's already been thinking without having to analyze itself and grow and adapt to new information. I want to continue with spontaneity from the same book by Keith Johnstone, how we have ideas that are rejected or dissatisfy us if they're psychotic, if they're obscene or unoriginal. Our inner guru, or the guru, in other words, our master, our teacher, our inner self that's non-judgmental and open and really a genius, gives permission to allow forbidden thoughts to the consciousness. They survived unscathed from the parts of the mind that others might avoid or refrain. Now, just because we don't see it or push it onto the rug doesn't mean it's not there. Foulkes and Anthony in Group Psychotherapy say a therapeutic situation is one in which the patient can freely voice his innermost thoughts toward himself, toward any other person, towards the analyst. He can be confident that he's not being judged, and that he's fully accepted, whatever he may be or whatever he may disclose. And we encourage the relaxation of censorship. We do this by letting the patient members understand that they're not only permitted but expected to say anything that comes to mind. We tell them not to allow any of their usual inhibitory considerations to stand in the way of voicing the ideas that come to them spontaneously. Mental patients mistake even normal workings of imagination for proof of their insanity. So we see here that we really do have to balance, creative thinking, spontaneous thinking, imaginative thinking, open-minded thinking with our expectations of ourselves and others. And there's actually something in the brain called the circle of Willis. It's between the hemispheres. It's called the circular arteriosus. And it's this circle. And it has, they say it looks like a little man in the brain. There's the basilar artery, the carotid artery, communicating artery, cerebral artery, and the vertebral artery. And they come like as if legs and hands and a head. You can Google it, Circle of Willis. And I also want to say that sometimes we have patterns of nature as creative people that show up. Like we have 12 hours in the Jewish culture, the 12 tribes, 12 zodiacs, 12 months. There's 12 inches in a foot. There's 12 sides of a cube. Sides meaning lines, right? There's 12 knuckles on the 4 fingers. And then the number 10, we have 10 dimensions, 10 full numbers in logarithmic, we have 10 logarithms, bases, or decimals, we have 10 commandments, and so on. And I had a conversation with this man named Bitte. We were saying, too much excess loses all value. That's the idea that, if everything means something, if everything's important, nothing is important, nothing means anything. It's okay to wobble. We're the flow will always win. And we have a oneness of the organs and the cells in the body. That's to be God. So we know fulfillment doesn't require overspilling or leaking. It can be with space still left. And some people need to hear no as much as I need to hear no. And life yields infinite options. If you have life, you have all. So this idea that creativity, flow, sort of living that way. In terms of people needing to hear no, is if someone says, do you want that? And you say no, and it's true, you don't want it. The same way that if I'm offering something, I want the person to tell the truth. I don't want them to resent me because I'm doing something they don't like after I ask them if they want it, right? And we have to also focus on the precious, clean, awakening psyche of the mind spirit. First thing in the morning, right away, both our imagination and our intelligence reside in our mind. And a mind is a terrible thing to waste, as they say. Our knowledge, our understanding, our wisdom. And actually it says that sometimes writing things down or putting them into words is actually reducing them in such an impossibly tragic way. And an example of that is, it says when the Torah was written down in Greek, it was as tragic as the golden calf, when the Jewish people sinned by worshiping an image rather than God, having a direct experience with God out of fear because the leader was disappeared for longer than they expected. The tikkun for the Torah, this is from Quantum Torah website by Alexander Poltorak. He says that we know that there's 4 layers of the Torah understanding in a rough, way. And there's 4 directions, right? We have all these numbers. So we have 4 directions. We have front, south, north, east, west. And then we have front, back, up, down. Then we have, obviously, what is it called? The 4 elements. We have the 4 levels of life, like the minerals, the silent ones, the plants, the animals, and then the speaker, human. And we have the 4 worlds, the world of emanation, the world of creation, the world of formation, and the world of motion or action. So we also have the 4 levels of the Torah, 4 levels of understanding, knowledge, guidance, wisdom. Pshat, which is the simple. remez, which is allusions, drash is homiletic or interpretation, and sod is esoteric or the secrets, the mystical. So allusions or hints as remez, and the simple or basic is pshat. And then in terms of how they interweave, we have pshat of pshat, pshat of remez, and so on. No translation can adequately convey, so it collapses the living possibilities of Torah, which is the hidden mysteries. It's called the living Torah, the eternal Torah. To try to reduce it into a language just so people who, at that time wanted it. It says the tikkun for the Torah keeps its embedded infinity. You can never take it too literally or limiting. And they actually say there's 70 faces there's 70 ways of understanding Torah, something that you learn. When Moshe translated it into 70 languages, the meaningfulness that can keep telescoping, Moshe, who wrote down the Torah, he translated in such a way that the meaningfulness can keep telescoping out and expanding. It was like a zip file, and like you open it, everything is revealed. But when you literally try to, when they wrote it down in a language, in order for those people to understand it exactly in one way and like know exactly what it meant, rather than it be open to these 4 layers, it's considered very tragic. And we can say that that's true because for us, because we have an inner Torah. All right, wishing you a blessed evening. Bye.